we do not properly introduce activities, people feel confused and they also get more disengaged. So this is why digital inclusion and inclusion in general is so important. Last year, or no, 2 years ago already, I started running my first master classes with the title Implusion. And Implusion for me, it was a term or it was a hashtag that I thought or I believed that it could go viral, did not go yet viral so far, but it is about impact and inclusion, because we need to be super aware that we have been talking a lot in the past 2 years about impact, how we can be extraordinary, how we can be memorable when we present. But without inclusion, there cannot really be any impact in the virtual space. And this is so important. And inclusion has many different layers. So my trainings very often focus on inclusion from different perspectives than digital inclusion. But today we're focusing on digital inclusion. So I'm going to ask you a question now. Think about one number only. One number only. Type the number into the chat without clicking enter yet until I say now. Okay, so one number, and the question for the number is, now comes the question, how many new tools for virtual live sessions have you learned since 2020? That's the question. One number, not clicking on enter. One number, not clicking on enter. Okay, and now on 3, we're everybody clicking on enter. 1, 2, 3, enter, please. Okay, yeah, so we see numbers from 28, 7, 9, 6, 8, 20, 6, 8, 7, 3, 3, 25, 3, 9, exactly. So we do see that many of us have been learning new tools, more than 10, 15 new tools since 2020 that we are using in our virtual live sessions. We are L&D professionals. So for us, it is of utmost importance, of course, that we learn new tools, that we learn how to use them in order to engage with the participants. But we need to be aware that for our participants, still today, I'm running workshops for organizations that are blown away of the functionality of breakout rooms. And you would say, like, really, is that possible after 2 years of pandemic? It is. And this is also why we need to be so aware of how we design our virtual live sessions with all those 25 new tools in mind that we have, in order not to overwhelm our participants, but to really feel them comfortable in engaging through whatever tool you're going to use in the live session, but not too many. That's the point here. Last time I was in a call with my most amazing friends from university. So it's always like 20 years that we know each other. And my friends were not able to share the screen. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Everybody is working. And after 2 years of pandemic, they were not able to share the screen. And of course we were making fun of it. We had something to drink. So maybe it was that, but still sometimes we need to be very aware that the most common denominator when we talk about virtual tools is or the audio or the chat. So not to use too many super exciting maybe, but too complex functionalities even of Zoom or any other platform that you're using. I'm just going to show you here another statistic. The COVID-19 crisis has accelerated the digitization of customer interactions by several years. So you just see here how the customer interaction that were digital, how they were before the pandemic and how they are now. And you see that the increase is tremendous. McKinsey and Company data. So when it comes to digital inclusion, and this is today's topic, when it comes to digital inclusion, what comes to your mind when you hear that? And now please just use the annotation tool. Use the annotation tool here in Zoom and type on the screen what comes to your mind when you hear digital inclusion. Go ahead. Giuseppe is writing difficult, very difficult. Kelly is typing what in? Wait, Kelly, you need to let us know what the acronym means. What about the others? Digital inclusion, it's not inclusive. The Wi-Fi capability, Kelly, thanks. Everybody should have access. Maria Fernanda is typing it into the chat. Eva Toivonen is typing into the chat also accessibility. Fantastic. We also have here comment, all participants get to share inputs as well. This is also one of the parts of inclusion, one of the aspects of inclusion. What happened in this exercise here can be scary for some who are less techy. Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. What I was trying to do here, and that might be a little bit nasty, is I was trying to sort of overwhelm you and also make you feel not included by asking you to use the annotation tool, which just not everybody knows how to use that. And what I wanted to do is to show you how it can feel if you are not able to use the annotation tool. Some of you just jumped into the chat, which is fantastic, because that's always the strategy if the annotation tool is not working. But it also was clear now that maybe those of you who were typing in the chat had a quick moment of frustration, because what is that annotation tool? So when we talk about digital inclusion, we need to think about how we give instructions during our virtual facilitation and how we make sure and clear that everybody understands where to find the annotation tool, for example. Annotation tool is something that is not yet, that not everybody is yet that experienced with, but if you as a trainer, if you as a learning and development facilitator instruct the exercise properly through visuals, like I'm doing it here now. So on the previous slide, I was on purpose like pressuring you use the annotation tool. I wasn't explaining anything. But if you can, for example, follow here the instructions, and now I'm going to ask again to type using the annotation tool. On this slide, what comes to your mind when you hear digital inclusion? So you go to the top where you see your viewing Barbara's screen. You usually should have the view options there. And if you pull that down, the last part is annotate. And then this black bar here pops up. Do you see that? And the black bar has also a T for text. You can always draw or do something more fun, but there is a T for text. Try to use now the annotation tool and give me at least one thing that comes to your mind when you hear digital inclusion. Okay, for those who the annotation tool is not working or those who just don't want to use it, please feel free to use the chat again. Giving you some time. Absolutely. So we need to ensure that everybody is involved, despite varying IT capabilities, for example. We need to clearly explain what we are requesting our participants to do. And for example, just this small difference, and this is also digital inclusion, this is a very small difference that I am showing you what I'm explaining you, because just think about that. There's one of you typed in here a bad Wi-Fi connection. If one of your participants has a bad Wi-Fi connection and you're explaining how to use the annotation tool, for one participant that might break up. But if you have here like a step 1, step 2, step 3 approach on how to use the annotation tool, it becomes much, much clearer and everybody is on board. Using the tag to encourage participation, absolutely. While in 2020, at every training at the beginning, I was doing a virtual run through Zoom and doing some onboarding. That was also my approach, because for many, many participants, it was totally unclear what the platform can do. Nowadays, I would always suggest to use the tag already to talk about the topic like we are doing it here. We're talking already about the topic of digital inclusion, but I'm using a different, one of the tools or one of the features, to say so better, one of the features of Zoom to onboard you to that we're going to use also later. Involving everyone is here on the on our slide as well. Involving everyone, also those who are not very tech savvy, and that is super important, because for me it means I need to keep track and see who is participating and who might not be participating because he or she feels lost in the tool. So think about that. Now everybody of you is typing. I do see, using the annotation tool, the names when you start typing, when you put it there. But sometimes it's difficult just because many are typing at the same time, and it's just difficult for me to sort of really remember that. But there are other ways to see, and we're going to experience that now. There are other ways to see if everybody is involved and sort of onboarded. Safe pace for all. We have it down here. Do you see? Absolutely. A safe but also slow pace for everyone. There might be individuals who want to have the instructions or need to have the instructions different times, several times. And that is also why when we talk about virtual facilitation and inclusive virtual facilitation, I always recommend, if possible, to have a producer, to have a co-facilitator, somebody who is supporting you if there are technical challenges. Sometimes it could be totally enough that you just have somebody joining, a colleague joining for the first 10 minutes, where most of the struggles, where most of the problems are happening. But sometimes also it makes sense to have a co-facilitator throughout the whole session, right? Here's somebody saying, feeling capable to participate. Absolutely. Why? Because if you don't feel capable to participate in the live session, you are already creating, and you as a trainer, you're creating moments of frustration for your participants. And this is so important. Fantastic. Here we have again, create a safe space, also ensuring also older generations to get involved, following digital trends as a company and staying up to date. That is also digital inclusion. Absolutely. We're following the trends, but we need to be aware that not everybody might easily onboard to the platforms or to the tools that we are using. So we also have more comments in the chat that we're going to see a little bit later. I'm saving now this here and I'm clearing all the drawings. Thanks so much for participating. What am I going to do now? I just would love to hear from you and know from you with a quick reaction if you were able to use the annotation tool. How am I asking you to do that? If you go to the bottom, you have the reactions button, and there is a green check. I see thumbs up. I love to have the green check, please. The green or the red, of course, if you were not able to use it. Whoa, 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 good, good, good. The green or the red check. So Asia, Claire Rose, Kelly, Carrie, Kelly Bodycard, let me know. Green check or the red cross. Saskia Martinez, green check or the red cross. If there is somebody of you, also Kirsty, you please just let me quickly know. If there is somebody of you who cannot see the green check yet, as you can see now, the screen is beautifully green, but I see Carrie, Kirsty, and Aisha. Maybe you're still struggling. Maria Polo as well. Think about it, whether it is because, or check it out later on, if your Zoom is not updated. Okay, that would be an important thing to do now. Also for your learners, if your learners are not able to use the reaction buttons, very often it is because it is not an updated Zoom version. So what am I doing here now? What do you think? If I'm just going to ask you here quickly, I told you that with the annotation tool, sometimes it's difficult to see if everybody was participating. Here, now, if you click on the participants list, look down. If you click on the participant list and the participants pop up on the left side, you have a quick overview about who was using the green check, right? So what is easy for me? I can ask Tracy, I know Naresh, Maria, Kirsty, Carrie. Let me know if everything is fine with you. Asia Braslovska, Asia, the other one. Can you let me know if everything is clear to you? And Maria puts up the green check. What about the others? And this is also how you can always use the tool and the tool within the tool. So it's like a tool from Microsoft, from Zoom. The tool, you're using the tool to understand if they were able to use the other tool. So you are combining even here the digital onboarding to the platform. So for example, now I see that Asia, Carrie, Naresh, and Tracy, they have not yet put up the green check. Naresh is saying the green check is not showing up. Thank you very much, Naresh. Why am I using the green check here and not the thumbs up? What do you think? Anybody knows what is the problem with the thumbs up reaction button?
The why you mean is not showing up, the thumbs up, or?
No, why do you think am I using the green check and not
and
the
not
thumbs
the
up button?
okay.
Because you were trying to use it at the beginning.
Yes.
And I was like, no, please, the green check. Who knows? Let's see, it disappears and there it is. Asia and also everybody, Virginie, it's temporary, Christy, thumbs up, exactly. So this is the one big challenge. Thumbs up is a nice reaction that you're getting, but the green check or the hands, you can also use the raised hands. I like to use the green check or the red check because that gives me a clear indication of what is going on. And also think about it. We know that in the virtual space, you have to use a lot of interaction elements, right? And this quick momentum, this quick question about, hey, let me know, everybody hands up who understood the question. And everybody's raising the hand. That also gives you an indication of who is there, who is maybe doing something else, or who is having a technical problem, like Naresh, who is not able to use the green check. No problem, but you need to be aware. Thank you, Saskia. I'm happy you like the tip. So these are the difference. Me as a facilitator, what I can do now, of course, is I can clear all the feedback and we are ready to go ahead. What we said is that we already jumped directly into the topic. Today, we are going to talk about what we need to consider before the training, during the training, and after the training when we talk about digital inclusion. We are very briefly now going to start with a quick activity in an only 5 minutes breakout room. Where I want you to think about a talk, a training, or even a meeting where you felt super engaged, where you could not stop listening, where the trainer also made you feel included from the very first moment on. What was it that hooked you up? Okay. I'm going to post now this question here as well into the chat, because in the small breakout groups, I'm going to ask you to use a Jamboard. That is it's a whiteboarding tool where you can use perfectly the sticky notes. And I'm going to ask you to briefly introduce yourself with name and the years that you have been working in L&D. The person with the shortest hair immediately starts the discussion and also takes notes on the Jamboard that is here in the link. I'm going to quickly show you the Jamboard. So just that you see how easy it is. It's a very barrier-free tool, I would say. What you can do in the Jamboard is, well, I have the first slide telling you that we do not want to feel our participants to feel overwhelmed, right? So we're going to discuss now what we can do to discuss on why we felt in a certain meeting hooked up and why we felt included. So if you go up here, you see that you can click on the next frame. This is room number 1. Then your next frame, your room number 2. And depending on the room that you find yourself in here on Zoom, you're moving to your slide, right? And then I'm asking you to use the sticky notes on the left side, which is the 1, 2, 3, the 4th symbol, to document your discussion. And who is documenting? Who remembers?
The one with the shortest.
Yeah, in our case, it would be you, Giuseppe. It would not be me.
Okay.
Fantastic. We have very little time, so just be aware that I'm going to put you only for 5 minutes into a breakout room. You're going to be there with 4 more colleagues, 4 to 5 more colleagues, and the person with the shortest hair starts the discussion. Introduce yourself quickly and jump into the conversation. Here we go.
How important that the meeting is online? It can be both online, offline, or it must be, are you referring only to an online meeting where I felt super engaged?
I would really think about the online context now.
Okay.
Okay, you can always call for help. You know, there's an ask for help button in the breakout rooms, and I'm opening them up now quickly. You're being moved there immediately. So see you in a bit. Giuseppe, this is the breakout room effect, right? Back everybody is with camera. Sorry for that
nice
joke.
To see you.
Everybody can be also off camera. That's also what inclusion is about. So I definitely do not want to impose being on camera on you. But of course, it's nice for everybody if we can see each other. Anyways, thank you very much for your interaction. It was fantastic because I was also able to follow what was going on in the breakout rooms, and I'm going to share that very briefly with you also afterwards. I'm going to share with you what were the outcomes of the room. So those of you who contact me for the slides, I'm also going to attach this link again, but it's there anyways. So what do we see here? Room number 1, quality and relevance of content. When people look at the camera and show high engagement, when the content is delivered in a very engaged way, informal conversations are being allowed. The personality of the speaker and an engaging persona. When it's fun and engaging, of course. Also making the space safe to share your thoughts and opinions. And I think this is very important, but not only for digital inclusions. There are many topics here that might not be only related to digital inclusion, but inclusion in general, right? So that we as facilitators, we ensure that everybody's voice is heard. And we also know that we're dealing with problems when we are also in smaller groups or in bigger groups, because there's always the leadership versus loudership, right? The person who is the loudest is the person who is being heard. And that is also why when we talk about everybody gets heard, very often we in learning and development, we talk about think, pair, and share, right? Think, pair, and share. I'm going to type that also again into the chat. Think, pair, share. When we want to ensure that everybody has a possibility to get their voice heard, I make you think before quickly on your own. I can pair you up, because this in breakout rooms, and we know breakout rooms are very, very powerful if they are used properly. In the pairing, what is happening is that also those participants who might feel uncomfortable in the big group are sharing in the smaller group. And that is then when, by coming back, the louder voices, they amplify the lower voices. So more extrovert participants, they amplify the opinion or conversation where introverts were involved that might not feel as comfortable sharing in the big group. Also, there has been going on a lot of discussion on LinkedIn, particularly when it was about how to use the chat, because we do know that, for example, brainstorming or any kind of creativity technique can work even better when we're in the virtual space, just because those who might feel a little bit intimidated by a bigger group, even in presence, they feel like, well, I can have my camera off, so I feel more comfortable, but I can also just contribute in the chat. So encourage always your participants to use the chat as well, because maybe not everybody wants to be on the mic, right? Not everybody wants to have the stage, and that's good. And that is why I see the virtual space as a possibility, a learning environment that helps more people to feel included, not only from a geographical perspective, right? Because we do know that virtual learning opened up the doors to everybody, to any kind of courses. Thanks a lot, Asia, for your comment. Think, parent, share. Using breakout rooms, but also the techniques that you're using to be inclusive, for example, such as liberating structures. Let's see if anybody of you is using liberating structures as a facilitation technique. Liberating structures as a facilitation technique. So wait, I'm just sharing with you the link immediately as well here. Do I see any hand up here? No hands up yet. Check it out. I'm not going into liberating structures now, and you're also seeing here, give me a second, I'm just seeing if the link was correct that I shared with you. Liberating structures, you find it in German, in English, you also find it in Spanish online, and liberating structures are conversation techniques, facilitation techniques, and there are, I think, 33 of them. If you go to the menu here, you see how many, yeah, exactly 33, and they all describe, like the think, pair, share very often is very similar to the 1, 2, 4 all technique. They help that everybody gets involved in the conversation. Check this out. It's a source, it's a fantastic source of facilitation techniques to be inclusive, to unleash potential of your participants. I had the pleasure to talk to one of the creators of Liberating Structures, and in my slides, you find also the link to this interview. Fantastic. Group number 1, so many relevant points here. Group number 2, room number 2 here again. Oh, they're already sorting. Thank you very much for that. Housekeeping at the beginning, how to use the chat, how to use the emotions, exactly to make clear that everybody who doesn't want to speak up has always the possibility to use the chat. For example, today I did not do it, but very often I also encourage participants to write to me personally. So there might be participants that are struggling with English language level or any kind of other technological issues they don't want to discuss in the big group or in the big chat. So encourage them also to approach you individually. We have here as well encouraged to introduce ourselves at the beginning using some digital tools. That's very nice. Good intro vibe, two-way rather than death by PowerPoint, absolutely. And it depends here as well. How do you use PowerPoint or how do you use the presentations? Now, today we're 24 participants. So for example, that everybody shares in the big group, it's almost impossible if we're not using the reactions, right? So this is also how powerful reaction buttons are, because everybody gets involved. And we do know that in the virtual space, you need interaction every 7 to 10 minutes. So just keep that in mind, every 7 to 10 minutes that people keep engaged and motivated in the conversation. And that is also why reaction buttons or the chat, quick yes and no questions are super helpful. Group discussions with the breakouts, interesting content, encourage cameras on, yes, but as I said, also camera on it has to be considered as a part of the inclusion discussion as well. Ice-breaking tools like Kahoot, Slido, or Mentimeter, digital polls, word clouds, fantastic. Let's check a little bit. Room number 4. Here we have, I'm just picking up on a few, gamification with Kahoot or Mentimeter, Slido, psychological safety again. Make it clear to your participants how they can communicate with you if there is something going on, and so on and so forth. Also, if you have a producer, for example, Giuseppe today, he could be the one that takes over if we communicate it in such a way. If you have technical problems, please get in touch with Giuseppe. He will help you. Write him a personal message. We have here also fast-paced, different types of interaction. This is also coming back again. Every 7 to 10 minutes, we need to have an interaction. We need to have a stimulus, but of course, not any kind of stimulus. It must be a good question connected to the topic, not any kind of breakout. It must be a relevant question that engages your participants. And you see what I did? I shared with you the question for the breakout room to make it clear to everybody. I shared it on the slide that I was sharing with you. I shared it with you in the chat because maybe somebody wasn't able to see the slide. That could be a technical problem. Maybe somebody doesn't have access to the chat for whatever reason. And then again, I shared it here on the Jamboard to make sure that everybody really feels included and has a possibility to check out the question that wants to be discussed. Here again, keep checking for understanding, absolutely. And there are lots of breakout rooms. Fantastic. Room number 5, just going here a little bit, make it fun, explaining why, explaining that what's in it for me, absolutely. When you are in a training, make it clear at the beginning, what are they getting out of this session? Do you remember what I started with? I started with the problems that we are facing in virtual live sessions, that everybody is disconnecting, disengaging, online shopping, social media checking, whatsoever, because sometimes we are not engaging enough, but also sometimes we are losing our participants because they feel overwhelmed. Do you remember what I did at the beginning? I tried to cause a feeling of overwhelm by using the annotation tool in order to make you experience what could be going on if you are not sort of moderating properly. Fantastic. And go ahead, Giuseppe.
There is a question. There was like a question a few minutes ago that I think has also a lot to do with provide a lot of inputs, right? And it's like, how do you put on the music? I always have the problem with this. Is a question coming from Asia. How did you share the music?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Giuseppe, for picking up on that. And Asia, I think it's a very relevant question when we talk about creating a safe space, creating a fun and engaging environment. All my live sessions always start with music. So I have my own playlists, but I also do use on Spotify royalty-free playlists. So if you're a trainer, if you're working with corporate clients, I would of course encourage you to use a playlist that is royalty-free so that you're not running any problems. There are several. And what I do is I go and share the screen, and then you have the basic, the advanced, and the files. So I'm allowing now everybody to just see that, okay? But don't share your screen now. If you click on the green button at the bottom, you share your screen, there pops up a window, right? On the top, you have basic, advanced, and files. If you click on the advanced option, you can click on computer audio and share. Did you see that? I see Saskia is nodding, so it's easy. Also, Martina is nodding, where I see Virginie, thanks. I see those who I'm seeing are nodding. Good. What about the others? And now there's another important. Eva is the hands up, Asia also without camera, hands up. And this now is also important. Digital inclusion means not only focusing on those who have the camera on. Do you see? And that is happening so often because I see now Martina, Linda, Giuseppe, Virginie, and Saskia, they were nodding. So for me, it was easy to understand, okay, they found it. And sometimes we as trainers are like, okay, well then everything is good because I saw the 5 of them nodding. But then of course, Eva and Asia also thumbs up and some reactions there. But we need to be aware that we very often forget about those we don't see. This is also called, well, somehow it's a proximity bias to some extent, in my opinion. There were questions. Is it different from ticking the share sound box? Yes, it is different because at the beginning of a live session, for example, I create a safe space by only sharing the sound and the rest are faces, okay? Mm. If I, for example, tick the share sound button, I will do it now. Or for whatever reason, it's not working at this point. if you click the share sound button, it means that you can share your PowerPoint slides and in the background you have the music on. Or if you have music embedded in your PowerPoint, this is being shared. That's the difference. But it means that you need to share something. While when you share the sound, you're just having the background music. Okay, that is the difference. And there's another question about Google Meets. Asia, I'm not sure, but I would think that there should be a way that you have it also in Google Meet. Thanks a lot for the question, also for the questions, for the points, and for your interactions in the breakout rooms. So we still have 15 minutes left, 10 minutes, and I'm going to give you now very quickly a few points that I also consider are super important when it comes to virtual digital inclusion or digital inclusion in the virtual space. And as I said, I'm running you through now a few considerations. Please jump into the conversation. I would be very, very happy to pick up all your comments. First things first, when we talk about accessibility and digital inclusion, for me, the primary question is always, how barrier-free do people get into your training? How barrier-free do they get into the tools, to use the tools that you want to use them, for example? So how easy is it for participants to join and use the tools in general? Which also means that you need to be clear, or you need to have a clear idea on where you join, where you share the links, and share it always on several channels. So for example, some of you mentioned Kahoot, Mentimeter, or Slido. I'm not going into these tools of interaction management, but when you use Kahoot, Mentimeter, or Slido, I always share on the slide the link and the access data. I always share in the chat the access data. And I always have additionally the QR code on the slide. So this is important. Use different channels and different ways. Very often it makes sense, even if your participants are not on Android or on the cell phone, that you encourage them to use the cell phone and just scan the QR code because it's faster and easier. If you're using more complex tools such as Miro or Mural, I always design for interaction on the tool a few days ahead. So let's see, hands up, who is using tools like Miro or Mural? Hands up, who is using tools like Miro or Mural? And also now important, hand up, not the thumb up, the thumb disappears. Quick note here again. Please, yeah, okay, I see a few, they're using Miro and Mural. So when I talk to colleagues of mine, or Green Tech, Tracy, fantastic, I think it's a very good number if you're able to onboard around 20 to 30 participants on the Miro board already before the training. So what I try to do is also that they experiment with the tool, because to be fair, Miro is not the easiest, and Miro can be confusing the way you need to move around as well. So do some small interaction. For example, we had there, if we are able to introduce ourselves, what I very often do, and there are so many lovely templates, you can give people a space on a Miro or Mural template so that they learn the tool, they experiment the tool. I usually do a short tutorial and I embed a video on Miro. I work with Miro, embed a video on Miro so that they see how to use it. And then they design their own space. I'm Barbara, I'm from Austria. Maybe I add a picture, maybe I add my flag or whatsoever, but I'm living in Spain. I like to be in Argentina. And so I already give them a space to get to know the tool, but also to get to know each other, because not in every training it's possible that you have like a long get to know each other at the beginning, right? This is important. When we talk about, go ahead, Giuseppe.
There is one question, by the way, as well, again from Asia, that she mentioned, what about you have like even more than 30 people participating, right? So it's really like a huge group. There is anything that you will say, we should really like take in consideration because of the number of the people. And if you have any good source for inspiration, it would be awesome.
Thank you very much. Well, a good source for inspiration, I would go. Now, here you go. To my YouTube channel, to my blog. Follow me on LinkedIn. I have a lot of blog posts about how to create interaction in the on different platforms. I also have a lot of YouTube videos on how to use different tools and so on and so forth. And also, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm always sharing content and tips on interaction, also in bigger groups. So I'm organizing events with up to 600 participants, and I'm known for a high interactive environment, creating for a high interactive environment. So I'm really, really very happy if you connect with me. I'm going to share here again my connection so that you can do that easily. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to. Thank you very much. So let me continue just to quickly not lose track of time as well. Before the training, make sure that people have all the access data, but also if it's complicated what you are doing, or if it's more complex, use the tool already beforehand. Get in touch with the learners well in time. Maybe send out a learning booklet where you also explain the technology, because that's how you take out stress of those who might not be that digitally savvy, right? Because you want to understand, sometimes you can do a survey beforehand to understand how digitally savvy your participants are, or you can ask the HR manager or the organizational manager who hired you about the digitally savviness level. But still, it's very good to onboard them beforehand if you plan on using more difficult tools. When we talk about during the training, so you see this very, very crowded elevator, right? You need to ask yourself also how many participants are in your room and are you able to support them? So if you have a very full training room, like Asia is saying, 30 plus participants, I would say that you need a co-facilitator, definitely. Usually, most of the virtual trainers that I work with, we always work in pairs, because you cannot guarantee that your internet connection is always just perfect, right? So that is also why a co-facilitator makes sense. But a co-facilitator, when you have big groups, is also the producer and the tech help for you. And I would definitely go for that if you have a 30 plus group, as Asia is mentioning here. So during the training, also instructions on several channels, as I said, on the slide, verbally, in the chat. Is the camera really necessary to be on during the training? Or is it, for example, something that creates also a digital gap? Why? Because with camera on, you might have a lower bandwidth. You need to know as a trainer that in Zoom, for example, I can turn off my camera if I have a low bandwidth and so increase my speed, but I can also turn off the incoming cameras. And that is also a good hint for your participants. Create a safe space at the beginning, that if anybody feels uncomfortable, that they reach out to you or to your co-producer, co-facilitator, for example. And last but not least, those are just a few points here. And last but not least, also, what do you do when it comes to the follow-up? So how do you ensure a follow-up? Maybe also by using technology after the training. I, for example, if I work with Miro, I always use the Miro board also after the training for some more learning reflections, because there is one thing that we know, if we look at learning and development, learning is not only through experience. What is the last final essential step when it comes to experiential learning? What makes learning stick?
The reflection and apply part. The application,
absolutely. Right? It's the application that is important, but also the reflection. Also, we have it here, Gary B is saying application, but also reflection. And very often I see L&D professionals who don't think about the reflection part. And you can use Also also Slido to have a nice reflective question at the end of your training, and at the end or after the training, sorry. And last but not least, this is just a beautiful example of one of the trainers that I worked with, Shiva. She did a quick individual check-in, and I was not even the participant. I was only her producer. She was running a masterclass for the Academy of Diversity and Innovation, and she was checking in with all of the participants, but not only with the participants, but also she was checking in with me. And I just love that because I felt like, wow, I do matter. I do matter, not only from a digital, because of course I was a producer, so I don't have digital problems, but I did matter in that training and with my role. So this was a lot to digest, I do know, and I don't even want to tell you that I'm skipping now the last 20 slides that I prepared, Giuseppe. But let's leave them out. I think that would be too much.
It's true. It is a lot, but for me was really, everything was so useful because 95% of the things that you say, I didn't know actually about it. So it was amazing. I still have one question. What about body language? So I know that when we are offline, so much depends on body language, right? I can, as an Italian, for example, I use a lot my body in order to create some kind of engagement. Online, I can't, unless you actually have some suggestions. For example, I heard someone saying, probably we should start exaggerating a little bit our body language if we do online. Do you agree with that, or maybe it's too much?
I'd be careful. So one thing, just a quick note, final note about body language. This is also, it's a masterclass that I usually do. And honestly, body language is the one thing that you should start with if you think about interactive and engaging trainings. Because I believe that my slides are nice. I use a lot of videos, nice pictures, some GIFs. So they're different, I use emojis. But the point is, even if my slides are very nice, if I'm not engaging the way I'm talking to you, the way I'm looking to you into the camera all the time, you wouldn't feel like what you're feeling now. Well, and now tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. But you know what I mean? So the point is, you should start with you. When it comes to body language, you see, I'm in the upper third of my camera. I am very well illuminated. I do use my hands, but not too much. My hands are always close by. So I'm holding my hands here while I'm talking to you. That looks super weird if you look at me from the side, but that is how I would suggest you to gesticulate. I use hands. I'm also a body language person. The problem, what happens now, if I do too much, what is happening? They cover my face, they're becoming super big, and it becomes sort of aggressive. I remember the first webinar I was giving, my first paid webinar, like 8 years ago or something. It was really good. I was reading a lot about all those things before, but the feedback that I got from the HR manager was like, well, I was trying to sort of reproduce a little bit how I'm on a big stage, but a big stage is like this. So you can use more body language, Giuseppe and everybody, if you're further away, because look at me like now it's fantastic. I have much more space if I want to do that. That is usually when I also stand up when I'm at doing a presentation. But if I'm close, like a meter, like we usually are, like this, I have my hands with me. I'm in the upper third. I look directly into the camera to establish a connection, but I have my hands with me. But show them. Be conscious about that. There is one fantastic consultant researcher, Vanessa Van Edwards. I think she's based in the US, The Science of People. And she analyzed, I don't know how many TED Talks, and she found out that people did not connect through the eyes, what everybody is thinking, right? We're connecting through the eyes. The eyes are the things that we're looking at. No, they believed more the TED Talkers who were using their hands.
Thank you. Super interesting.
Asia is saying, you're attacking us. Exactly. Look at that. So we need to have some sort of distance, a personal distance, and not be too close. Thank you so much, Eva. And thanks a lot, Asia, Sue as well, Christy. Great ideas and tips. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. 1902. It was great being with you. And again, I would be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn if you have further questions. I have, as I said, I really have a lot of blog posts out there with content also about digital body language and videos that you might want to watch. So thank you very, very much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you, L&D Shakers, for organizing the session. And yeah, let's connect. See you soon.
Thank you.
Ciao,
bye
guys.
bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.